Hi. Hello. So, for no logical goddamn reason, I've decided that I want to talk about why conversations are difficult for me. I thought it might be, I don't know, nice to hear that maybe what you're experiencing in terms of like struggling when socializing also happens to someone else. Like Tom Riddle's diary, that's me. I'm an open black ooze spewing book, and I have decided to, for whatever reason, out myself as the Akko Taco that I am. This is going to be a little series because conversations are hard for me for a variety of different reasons, and I'm never going to stop having them, unfortunately, until I'm dead, of course. The experiences that I've got lined up to talk about are all conversations that I've had recently in my life with real people because those are the most awkward and difficult, and I've had an unusual amount of social interactions of late than I normally would or would like. Before I begin, I would like to say that I am just awkward, to my knowledge. You can diagnose me if you get off on that, but I am generally a pretty functional, neurotypical person. It's not that I can't socialize properly, I just happen to crumble and implode the second that I meet a snag in a conversation and fret to the point of a panic attack sometimes at the prospect of even having to have conversations. Sometimes. Sometimes. That's not to say I may or may not have some pretty odd spectrum-esque responses to some things, as you will find if you follow my channels and get to know me. But this is more about finding relatable connections to social difficulties, not to try and equate me to some grander complex that we all who feel this way need to deal with. Okay? Okay. So I was at a social gathering, atypical to the norm of my daily life. My job doesn't require interacting with customers or anything. It's mostly solitary, aside from those in the family business who I live with, so we're all pretty comfortable with each other. And my side gigs only require online text correspondence. I'm not normally in a situation where I'm talking to a stranger without some context in which to guide us. Like when you're having a doctor appointment, the context is that they're a doctor and you're a patient and you're going to talk about your health, right? This was a family function, my family in law, if you will, and I hadn't met most of them before ever. And there were dozens of people in a room that I've never said hi to and didn't know the names of. They were all lovely, don't get me wrong, but I ended up the third wheel to all conversations that my partner was having with their cousin, and for whatever reason, the topic of ASMR came up. It was some branch off of the conversation of like weird shit on the internet. And as you may not know, I'm a pretty avid ASMR listener. I put a video on most nights before I go to bed because I need some distraction at the end of the day, or my mind will whir endlessly for hours, but something that also isn't so engaging that I can't tune it out and actually fall asleep. I personally, in case you were curious, love crinkle sounds and rain, and light triggers when they do the cross the screen. In another video, we could do a grander discussion of ASMR and when it gets weird. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that, I'm perfectly willing to admit that that happens, but also don't approve of blatant stigmatization of the genre or creators who are being wholesome, and I don't ever want to discredit the benefit that they offer people like me. So, when the topic came up, before I could naturally interact with the conversation, the vibe had already been set to I don't understand it. Like ASMR, I don't understand it. The cousin, doesn't understand ASMR, to be clear. He was in no way malicious towards ASMR, as some people are, which I really appreciated, but I also found it impossible with my social awkwardness to contribute anything to the conversation after that point. What do you do? What was I going to do? When the conversation starts with, I just don't get those people, how do you find the courage to out yourself as one of those people? He's already said it's weird and doesn't understand it. Not meanly, might I make very clear again, but god damn it, I am not confident enough to go, oh, well, actually, that's totally me. I'm the demographic. Let me explain it to you. There were several perfect moments to interject, like them saying, I don't know what ASMR stands for. I just let that hang there and die when I could have supplied autonomous sensory meridian response. But that just opens me up to essentially an uphill battle trying to get someone who has actively said that they can't relate or understand something already to offering understanding through my experience. And that's scary. That's just asking to get judged. The guy was genuinely really kind about it. He didn't veer into a really judgy territory necessarily, categorizing those who listen to ASMR as freaks or anything, but I just I can't handle conversations that involve explaining myself. I can explain things to people sometimes, but being of the class of ASMR listener turned me into an other, and therefore any engagement with the topic turned into, in my eyes, a need to justify myself. Even though I do not doubt that he was broaching the topic from a place of curiosity, the fact that the place that we were starting from was already biased away from my favor felt like a shut door. So that's the starter example for this series of why conversations are hard for me. If someone even remotely seems as though they have an opinion that is not in line with my own, I just can't have my own in that conversation. I don't let myself. It's not a fragility of the opinions that I have. It's not like I don't have a spine. I just can't talk about myself in time. I have spoken up about things very rarely when someone voices a stance that is like horribly misogynistic or racist, but generally, I just let them say their piece. If it seems like that's a topic that we're not likely to bridge without me having to make myself really vulnerable to do so, I just don't, and I write it off. And depending on the amount and frequency of those happenings, I write people off, which sounds really harsh, but it's just not worth my time. Like, some topics, like I said, are my responsibility to interject on, but generally, if it feels too difficult to spend an hour's worth of time with someone explaining my lived experience so that they can vicariously maybe understand it, I'd rather just avoid them and not bother. If they want to get to know me, I've got memoirs for that. As can you, if you're feeling like it. I don't know. Up my book sales, minions. Okay, so yeah. Thanks for listening. I hope you can relate, and if not, I hope the moral of the story is that if you're having a conversation with someone who seems kind of shy and awkward, I'd say go out of your way to bring up topics on a neutral field. Give them a chance to engage with it before you state your opinion, because if you come out strong one way or the other, that may deter them from interacting with it, regardless of how much it means to them or is even an identifier of theirs. That is, of course, if you care, if you give a shit. A lot of people don't. They just want to yap. They just want to yap and yap and yap and be their extroverted selves, and good for them. Anyway, yeah, that's part 1. Why and when conversations are hard for me. Okay, bye.